Welcome to the Skeptic Zone Live. That's right, time to go. I don't believe in that, as it's the podcast from Australia for science and reason and a few other things we can't mention. And here are your hosts, Richard Saunders and Stefan Sojka. Look at them.
Hello, Stefan. And hello, everybody here at Sydney's Skeptics in the Pub, and welcome to the Skeptic Zone Live.
Yay! And it's so good to see all you people in 3 dimensions. I'm only used to seeing you in little square portrait photos on Facebook, and you're actually real. I thought you were all scamming me and spamming me, but no, you're real. Humans, welcome.
The last time, thank you, humans. The llast time we did a Skeptic Zone Live was almost 5 years ago, believe it or not, and that was at Boo. Someone could have got a Boo.
No, an R.
An R.
We should do it more often.
We should do it more often. That was at TAM Australia, and that was almost 5 years ago. Now, we have a big audience here tonight at Skeptics in the Pub. It's full to the brim, and embedded in the audience, like those people who were embedded in the war zones, it's Maynard. Hello, Maynard.
Hello, it's like a large queen bed and we're on to our 3rd bottle of wine, so shut up and get on with the show.
That's our spirit.
Joining us tonight for the Skeptic Zone Live, of course, my co-host since the beginning of the Skeptic Zone, Stefan Sojka.
Who these days only hosts about 1 in every 132 episodes, but I'm still here, yeah.
Stefan is the man who came up with the name The Skeptic Zone.
Well, that was so creative. It was just brilliant. Yeah, so original.
Now, I've just been to the States and I brought back some goodies for some people. Stefan, have some saltwater taffy.
Do they have any medicinal value?
Yes, they cure everything.
Oh my God, thank you.
He's getting into them already. Also joining us for the Skeptic Zone Live, it's Jo Alabaster. Jo, come up. Hey.
Hello. Oh, I'm not quite as tall as you. We have to adjust the microphone.
We can do that when your bit comes. And for Jo, you've got a mug from San Francisco. Ooh. There you are.
Thank you very much.
Jo Alabaster, everybody.
I really wish you'd given me a mug, because now I can't talk. Thanks anyway.
Thank you, Stefan. Joining us from the North Coast region of New South Wales, it's the raw skeptic, Heidi Robertson. Heidi! Yay!
Hello.
And for Heidi, what do we have from San Francisco? Lovely chocolates. Oh, there we go.
Jockey, thank you.
Heidi's come a long way to be with us today, so thank you very much, Heidi. Also joining us for the Skeptic Zone Live, it's the president of Australian Skeptics, Eran Segev. Hooray!
Hello.
Here's a man who likes to take a chance, so from Las Vegas, a couple of casino dice. There you go.
Thank you very much.
No expense spared for this show, ladies and gentlemen, I can promise you that. Oh, we've got one more thing on the table, of course. Also joining us, the regular Skeptic Zone reporter, Maynard! Yay! Maynard!
You got that pump from San Francisco I asked you for.
It says, ring to party Las Vegas. Hey!
We're going to be using this tonight. So, Saunders, I believe you could be full of... There we go.
It's absolutely true.
Now you've got 3 waitresses coming up the stairs.
That was earlier.
So tonight's going to be sort of like the show itself. We're going to have different segments, different reporters giving their report. And we've got a special report from Dr. Rachie, who's now studying, researching, I should say, in the United States. She sent her Dr. Rachie report, which we'll be hearing a bit later on. But we're going to kick off with a report from me, Stefan.
From you?
From me.
From you. Let's cross over to you then, shall we?
Thank you. Let's cross over.
Okay, Richard, over to you. We'll cross over. Thank you. Are you crossing over?
I've crossed over.
Oh, he's crossing over. Okay, over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Stefan Sojka.
Thank you, Richard.
He can take a seat behind. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just flown back last week. I went to the United States for the amazing meeting, TAM in Las Vegas. I've been going to TAM now every year since 2008, and I was part of the organising committee for TAM Australia, which we said, hello, is that Maynard?
Time's up.
Which it's too many bells. Which was, as we said, 5 years ago. And people have been asking me what it was like, TAM Las Vegas this year. It was fantastic. It was in a new casino called the Tropicana, which was on the Strip, as they say, right in the heart of the action. Previously, for many years, it's been in the South Point Casino, which is away from the main area. So it was a nice change. And people, in fact, I think Jessica Singer, where's Jessica? One of the organisers. Thank you, Jessica. Yes. She was asking me earlier how James Randi was. He is, and there's only one word for it, amazing. He was running around, he was meeting everybody, he was active, he was doing lots of things. In fact, he was in a lot better condition than he was when he was here last year doing his big tour, because the tour was very tiring. So Randy is doing really well. We're not sure yet whether there will be a TAM next year. They're deciding that. I suspect there will be, because it was a good turnout and everybody enjoyed themselves. Now, a lot of people have been asking me about the $1 Million Challenge this year, because every year at TAM, we like to put together a challenge for the $1 million. This year was a little bit of a different one. We didn't have a challenger as such, so we had a sort of a demonstration test challenge. We didn't have anybody to have an agreed protocol with, so we had a test of some audio cables, vodka Ethernet cables from AudioQuest, which cost about 10 times as much as a standard cable. And the claim is, or the hype is, that if you buy these really expensive cables, your digital music will sound better. Well, we did a test on stage, and the cables, in our test at least, didn't live up to the hype. But a lot of people in the audience were picking holes in the way we did it, and we can appreciate that. It was only a demonstration test, but still, it made the point that under those conditions, these vodka internet ether AudioQuest cables didn't live up to the hype. But I can tell you that putting together a live demonstration / test for the $1 Million Challenge is very difficult. And in years past, it's been many, many stressful hours at TAM for me and the other members of the $1 Million Challenge Committee to put this together, talking with the person who's claiming the $1 million, creating a stage show, late nights, rewriting scripts and everything like that. But it's all part of the fun. It's all part of the fun, which is TAM in Las Vegas. And if it's on again next year and you get the chance, I can recommend it. Maynard, you went a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'm still there.
He wore a gold suit. Twice. He's the only man who can wear a gold suit in Las Vegas and look out of place.
And Penn Jillette was rude to me. It was fantastic.
Penn Jillette was rude to you?
He was. On his own time, too.
That's a novelty. All right, well, that's my report. Our next segment coming up is from the very wonderful and lovely and somebody who I admire very much. Yes, it's Jo Alabaster. Come up, Jo. Hang on.
What we want is some more evidence, please. Here's Jo Alabaster.
Hello, I'm probably going to be a little bit less dynamic than Richard because I'm reading from a script today. Okay. Are we right? Is this good?
Yep, I can do that too.
Thank you. Oh wow. I can actually see out there now. Thank you. Okay, hello, this is Jo Alabaster. I always write that in, and I have 5-second pause written here. Okay, now this week I get to play with a live audience, which is great. Hello, live audience. Closer to the mic. Anyway, thank you for saying hello. And hello to those of you listening at home or in your car or while doing the dishes or shampooing your cats. Now, I ought to give you a warning. Some of what I'm talking about this week gets a little bit adult in nature. So if you're listening to this as a podcast and have small humans within earshot, you might want to save this segment for later. And if you hear it at the pub with children, nope. Oh, good.
He's fine.
I feel like the Doug Anthony All-Stars or something saying terrible things. Okay. All right. Well, to start out with, I've got a question for the audience.
The answer's 3.
Very close.
42.
Oh. People at home, you're welcome to yell out the answer too if you have it. What do Sigmund Freud, English space rock group Hawkwind and metal filaments encased in resin pyramids have in common? Anyone?
Is that you, Maynard?
Orgone.
It's party time! Yes!
They're Austrian.
No.
They're all things in the universe.
Orgone. We have the correct answer. That's right. They're all connected to Wilhelm Reich and the theory of orgone energy. Now, I first became fascinated with orgone energy when I was sitting at my laptop looking for websites which made false claims about the dangers of electromagnetic radiation, and came across someone who was selling interesting-looking coloured translucent pyramids and stones which were speckled with metallic filaments called orgonites. They looked like gemstones or polished crystals of some sort, and I thought that perhaps they'd make amusing paperweights. Unfortunately, when I looked into orgonites a little further, I was disappointed to find that they're made of resin and not at all heavy enough to make effective paperweights. But I continued to read and fell down a rabbit hole of strangeness, of orgone energy and the man who devised its existence, Wilhelm Reich. Born in 1897 and graduating in medicine from the University of Vienna in 1922, Wilhelm Reich rose to prominence as an influential second-wave psychoanalyst with some rather radical ideas. As an undergraduate, he met Sigmund Freud, and the two became close, with Freud being so impressed with Reich that he allowed him to see patients while still an undergraduate. Unfortunately, this confidence was misplaced. Reich began having an affair with a 19-year-old patient, a habit he continued throughout his career. Freud and Reich did not see eye to eye for long. While Freud was concerned with what a patient said, Reich became much more focused on inflection, body language, and facial expression, and reportedly subjected his patients to harrowing sessions to break down what he perceived as being their resistance and inhibition. One of the ideas that Reich developed was that of body armour, in which he contended that there was a strong link between the character, emotional blocks, and tension in the body. He suggested that repression of memories and emotion was the cause of physical illness, this being a theory which pops up with alarming regularity in the world of alternative therapies today. In 1930, Reich moved beyond psychoanalytic technique onto touch therapy, sometimes painful, aimed to retrieve a repressed memory from his patient's childhood. His goal became to trigger a whole body response with this touching, free from repression and inhibition, which he referred to as the orgasm reflex, a full body convulsion distinct from regular climax. That said, Reich was a great proponent of regular climax too. His promotion of underage sex, emphasis on the importance of orgasm, and his sexual involvement with his patients saw the International Psychoanalytical Association request his resignation, to which Reich responded by camping in a tent outside their conference while wearing a large knife on his belt. From then on, his ideas became even more unorthodox. He became convinced that there must be an additional element beyond the physiological which contributes to human orgasm, and this is where orgone energy was born, orgone taking its name from the word orgasm. Orgone energy, Reich felt, was everywhere, a biological and cosmic energy which was linked to libido and potency, cancer, frogs, and the aurora borealis. He began building contraptions to harness orgone energy, Faraday cages made with plywood lined with rock wool and sheet iron, which he referred to as orgone accumulators. He believed that different materials, organic and inorganic, concentrated and reflected orgone energy, and that his orgone accumulators concentrated orgone energy to levels which could be used to treat cancer, experimenting with animals and then using it to treat humans. Living in the US by this time, in 1940, Reich wrote to Albert Einstein, explaining the hope he had for his orgone accumulators in curing disease and outlining a claim that he could use his accumulators to raise temperature without a heat source. Amazingly, Einstein spent 10 days examining an orgone accumulator for evidence of its temperature-raising capacity before dismissing it as the result of ambient temperature gradients. Demonstrating increasing paranoia over the years, Reich believed that Einstein's dismissal was part of a conspiracy against him. Reich continued his pursuit of orgone therapy, applying it further in his therapy, creating more machines, notably the Cloudbuster, a series of metal pipes grounded in water and pointed at the sky, which he believed could unblock orgone energy in the atmosphere and cause rain. His claims about curing cancer were investigated by the FDA, who put an injunction on his literature and orgone machines, which reportedly triggered a further deterioration in his mental health. By the mid-1950s, he was convinced that UFOs were attacking Earth with deadly orgone radiation, and would spend nights scanning the skies with his binoculars, convinced he was fighting an interplanetary battle, shooting down UFOs with his cloudbusters. In 1956, an FDA inspector posing as a customer requested an Orgone accumulator part be sent over state lines. The part was sent, and Reich and an associate were charged with contempt of court. Reich was sentenced to 2 years' imprisonment, his literature ordered to be burnt, and his machines destroyed. Psychiatric assessments were unfavourable, but he served 8 months in prison, where he experienced sudden heart failure and died. He was 60 years of age. Now, Orgone theory has made its way into popular culture over the years, or at least popular counterculture. William S. Burroughs was convinced that a home-built Orgone accumulator box greatly assisted him during times of withdrawal from heroin. Now, if you've seen the video to Kate Bush's 1985 song Cloud Busting, you might remember Donald Sutherland playing a character who created a large metal, vaguely steampunky machine with 4 long tubes, which he wheeled up onto a hill to the sky and created rain. Donald Sutherland was portraying Wilhelm Reich, and Kate Bush's son, the song based on a view of Wilhelm Reich through the eyes of his son Peter. And then there's American new wave band Devo's Energy Domes, the iconic terraced round Ziggurat-style plastic hats worn by band members. One of the stories that's been told about the origin of the Energy Dome, and there are several, is that Energy Domes recycle the wasted Orgone energy lost from the top of the head. Now you know. Are you going to continue to take Devo seriously? Sorry. Okay, it gets better. Space rock group Hawkwind wrote a 10-minute song titled Orgone Accumulator, and I challenge you to listen to it. I did it. It was life-changing. Dr. Duran Duran in Barbarella was loosely based on Wilhelm Reich. Orgone energy was mentioned in the BBC comedy Peep Show when Jez and Superhands joined a cult, and the Orgone accumulator box was parodied in the Woody Allen film Sleeper. But what's the relevance of Orgone theory today? There are still the true believers out there who pen missives defending Wilhelm Reich, claim he was assassinated as part of a grand conspiracy to suppress the truth, and there are also people selling products based on Orgone theory. In 2000, a couple in America who'd been studying Reich's work decided that layering metal filaments and quartz crystal in catalyzed organic fiberglass resin created an item which harnessed the power of Orgone energy, much the way Reich's accumulators were meant to, with their layers of plywood, rock wool, and sheet iron. At the last Mind Body Wallet Festival we went to, I came across 2 separate groups selling Orgone-related paraphernalia, and one was selling a variety of orgonites. They weren't directly referring to Reich's theories, but they were going down the electromagnetic radiation fear-mongering path, claiming that their orgonites could protect against damaging negative energies. With a pang of regret, as I handed money over to a Mind Body Wallet vendor who wasn't located in the cafeteria area, I bought myself a souvenir. Aha! I get to wave it around. You're welcome to come and have a look and gaze on the mystique of the wonderful orgonite. It was $4. It's tiny. It's not one of those fancy big ones, yeah. But apparently this is fine for a mobile phone or something such. Yes. So I'll also stick some photos up on my Twitter account, so anybody at home fascinated and who desperately wants to see the orgonite, I have the orgonite. I will post photos. Online, there are also many orgonite selling businesses, including those who've gone further and sell cloud-busting machines, which would make perfectly serviceable but expensive trellises for growing beans on if you're into that kind of thing. There are also orgonites made specifically for using to protect against energy emitted by computers, phones, and mobile phone towers, against nuclear energy, and against bad vibes from neighbours. It's a little strange, though. It's a lot strange. What am I saying? Edit. Yes. It is strange that the people that I've encountered selling items based on Orgone energy don't tend to mention Wilhelm Reich and the kind of sexy roots of his theory. So I haven't had the audacity yet to ask an orgonite salesperson where Orgone energy theory came from, but perhaps I will one day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo Alabaster. I was with Jo at the Mind Body Wallet Festival when she did that. Now, Maynard, how's the reaction? What's happening there embedded in the audience?
Well, I've just been looking around here and everybody wants a bit of Orgonite. And the three people back there just went and joined Devo.
Give us a ring of your bell. Make sure you're still there. Yes, you're still there. That's great. Now, folks, if you want to in the audience, if you're on your mobile device, please photograph and Twitter, or just Twitter the event. Use the hashtag Skeptic Zone Live if you feel so inclined to do that. Also, I forgot to mention at the top of the show, this is episode number 355. 355 for the 9th. Ooh, yes, yeah. Oh, come on.
And also later we'll be throwing to the audience if you've got any questions for Jo or anyone else about something you've heard tonight. Mm-hmm. There will be questions.
Someone's put their hand up actually down just behind you. Well, wait.
Hang on a minute.
We have a question.
Okay.
Live question.
Okay, troublemaker, what have you got to say?
No, not at all, but I saw a very long time ago a fantastic movie called Mysteries of the Organism. Did you see that?
Mysteries of the Organism. I have not seen that, but I will give it a hunt down. What was on it?
A homage to the work of psychologist Wilhelm Reich, matched with a story about a Yugoslav girl's affair with a Russian skater, sexual repression, social systems, and the Orgone theory explored. It was a fantastic movie, but it's a long time ago.
Wonderful. Okay, do you know
I've got a question. What was the name of that doctor in the movie Barbarella again?
Dr. Duran.
I love that bit of the film.
We'll save the question to the end if that's all right, because now we'll do that. We'll just move on with the show. Oh, by the way, folks, to help the Skeptic Zone cover costs and things like that, and we're going up to Brisbane, there's a range of merchandise up here for sale. So after the show, please come and inspect that and buy it all. In fact, you can just buy the lot. That would help us a great deal. And thanks to our friends at the National Geographic Channel, we have a DVD copy of the latest Cosmos series to give away tonight. And Maynard is going to be the one who's going to tell us who the winner is, but we don't know what the criteria is, do we, Maynard?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to beat Dr. Duran. We'll have to come up with something better than...
We'll have to see, but that'll be going up later tonight. Now, moving on with our next segment of the show, and I'll play the theme for him. It's a man I have enormous respect for, one of the reporters who's been with the Skeptic Zone for many, many, many years, in fact. And, of course... the president of Australian Skeptics, it's Eran Segev.
Let's all take this with a grain of salt. Here's Eran Segev.
Okay. So the story I bring you today is from Israel, which is the land that brought you 3 monotheistic religions and one major producer of scrap metal, most of which is bent spoons. Earlier this year, a new reality TV show debuted in Israel. Its name is The Drillers, and it's about a group of people drilling for oil. Not much for a skeptic to hang on to, I hear you think. But there's a twist, and the name of the twist is Oren Zarif. Oren Zarif is a self-proclaimed psychic and healer who has a knack for publicity and has made quite a name for himself in Israel. It's difficult to be sure how many people take him seriously, but there are a few stories that will give you a bit of a feel for what you should be thinking of him. He sued a talk show host for calling him a charlatan. In rejecting the suit, the judge said, quote, "Every viewer could form their own nearly obvious conclusions." Another story is Zarif claimed that a certain brand of toilet paper should be taken off the shelves to prevent, and again I quote, "total negative echoing in the universe." I'm sure it means something, somewhere, to someone. In response to constant mockery by a TV comedy show in Israel, he threatened to, and again I quote, "neutralize their laughter frequency." And a particular highlight was when, following a political victory by a local politician, Zarif claimed responsibility and demanded to be pre-selected to the second spot in the party's list of candidates to parliament. And in 2015, Zarif decided to look for petroleum using his powers. Now, before I go on to describe the show and what it has exposed, I want to give you a bit of a short lesson on Israel's history with drilling for oil. As you're probably aware, Israel's neighbors are awash with petroleum. But one of the benefits of being the chosen people is that God saves you the bother of perhaps having to deal with the environmental effects of finding oil. So while in the 67 years since Israel was established, there has been numerous attempts to find oil, no one found anything that would make much of a difference to Israel's economy, and very few drillings have been commercially successful. So for Zarif to suggest he could find oil, he would need to be either deluded or not care at all about how he would look when he doesn't find any oil, and my suspicion is that he's probably both. So, on to the show itself. So, in the first episode, Zarif drives around in a black van, what else, picking up his collaborators. Those comprise a singer, an actor, a minor celebrity from another reality TV show, an author and journalist who is known for his right-wing views, big thing in Israel, right-wing, left-wing thing, and another journalist who's well known for his left-wing views. Clearly, we're expecting some conflict there. Together, they drive to a beautiful ranch out in the desert where Zarif asks them, as a mark of faith in his abilities, to contribute 100,000 shekels, which is about $35,000, towards the effort. They were not expecting that. They all do, with one of them hesitating for one day while he consults his guru. So he wanted to be, do the cautious thing and actually look into it first. They then have a geologist explain to them how petroleum was created, leading to a huge debate about the age of the earth and an angry dead Zarif grandfather blowing the easel the geologist was using for the presentation. It's never happened to that geologist before. He admitted that his easel never blew up. The episode ends with the first drilling resulting in a powerful stream of black fluid erupting well into the air. Unfortunately, the team has ruptured a sewer's pipe. In episode 2, Zarif meets a politician to try to get a state financial support for the venture. Much to the ire of his co-investors, he takes a helicopter. You know where that leads, right? Not to Geelong, but to Jerusalem. And his reason is, why can't he take a normal flight? Because he can't fly too high because the spirits don't like it when he gets to their level. In episode 3, a Japanese consultant in a kimono, it's very weird, is hired to create the right ambience for Zarif's powers. And she put all kinds of gongs and things. There's no explanation at any point how it makes a difference. Just I suppose, general weirdness. In episode 4, in an uncharacteristic act of rationality, the team hires an organizational consultant. Unfortunately, they follow it up by deciding to drill in Tel Aviv's equivalent of the corner of George and Market Streets. So, major commercial hub. They decide that's where they're going to drill. In episodes 5 and 6, the team arranged the drilling in Tel Aviv, culminating in a violent arrest by police. Once again, this doesn't sound like very interesting for a skeptic, but all the while, Oren Zarif keeps making proclamations about what his guides are telling him, waves his fingers in this odd way that I can't really explain for a podcast, so he does this thing like that in the air. He just waves his fingers in the air and he says, it's like an aerial. That's how he connects to the spirits. And overall, he's just being very weird. So it's quite compelling viewing, actually. So we're now up to episode 7, and I'm not going to even talk about episode 7 because really nothing much happens. On episode 7, they actually go on an oil rig in the Mediterranean, but nothing interesting from our perspective. So while the first few episodes look like they've been subject to the heavy editing that you'd expect of a reality show, by episodes 3 or 4, it becomes quite clear that the whole thing is more heavily scripted than edited. That raises a few questions about the purpose of the show and of presenting it as reality, but to me the most interesting question is the purpose of Oren Zarif's involvement and how it is viewed by the few people in Israel who have yet to decide or form an opinion on whether he has real powers or he's a complete crackpot. The show clearly exploits his weird claims and the gestures and to the hilt. You know, like everything he does, like there's lots of close-ups and lots of focus on his movements and his weird proclamations. But whether that makes it more believable or less believable or just very amusing to the audience, that remains an open question. So a few years ago, Uri Geller, the aforementioned spoonbender, had a TV show in Israel called The Successor, where he was trying to find the next one-trick pony. And James Randi once said that the most dangerous place in the world is standing between Uri Geller and a TV camera. So at least in one respect, Uri Geller has found his successor.
Thank you very much, Eran. Segev. Now, we have in the show, if people who listen to the Skeptic Zone know that we have regular little breaks through the show to promote other skeptical events and organisation and people all around the world. We have ads from Norway, from Hungary, yes, thank you, from Germany, from somebody listens to the show. How about that? From all around. So for the benefit of those people listening at home, from Russia, thank you, yes, we're going to have a little commercial break now, and coming back out of the break, we're going to continue with Dr. Rachie Reports.
AstronomyCast takes a facts-based journey through the cosmos as it offers listeners weekly discussions on astronomical topics ranging from planets to cosmology. Hosted by Fraser Kane of Universe Today and myself, Dr. Pamela Gay of Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, this show brings the questions of an avid astronomy lover directly to an astronomer. Together, Fraser and I explore what is known and being discovered about the universe around us. Join us each week as we take a facts-based journey through the cosmos at astronomycast.com.
Welcome to a week in science from RiAus, bringing you the science you need to know. When winter comes, I crank up the heat and wrap myself in warm clothes, but men don't seem to do the same. So why is it that women feel the cold more than men? One theory is that women have a higher core body temperature than men. This would create a bigger difference between our internal temperature and the outside ambient temperature, which makes us more sensitive to the cold. But scientific evidence for this is a bit shaky, with some studies finding a difference and others not. Overall, it seems that women could have a slightly higher core temperature, but we're only talking about 0.2 degrees difference. When you take into account other factors that change how people feel the cold, like age, fitness, hunger, and tiredness, this difference is really insignificant. So if core body temperature isn't a factor, then what's happening? Well, it turns out that women have a lower skin temperature than men, meaning that we feel the cold more. Women tend to have a higher skin surface area to volume ratio because we're generally smaller overall. To stop too much heat loss through this surface area, we have a lower flow of blood to the skin, leading to a lower skin temperature. This means that it takes a much smaller drop in temperature for our skin sensors to detect that we're feeling cold. Women's bodies also seem to be better at moving warm blood away from our extremities to protect internal organs. That's why our hands and feet can be 3 degrees cooler than men's. And it seems counterintuitive, but our extra layers of fat actually insulate our skin from our warm core, creating the sensation of coldness. That's also why larger people tend to feel the cold more. And now, 4 fast facts about our body temperatures. Women need to get much hotter than men before they start to sweat, and even then they sweat much less, which is probably linked to testosterone levels. Your body temperature cycles up and down by a degree or so throughout the day, being lowest a couple of hours before you wake up and highest in the late afternoon. Our definition of a normal temperature came in 1851 from German physician Karl Wunderlich, who took armpit readings from 25,000 patients. And pregnancy and hormonal contraceptives can increase a woman's core temperature by 1 degree Celsius. That's it for this week in science. If you want to find out more about why women are cool and men are hot, go to the RiAus website, riaus.org.au. Plus, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at RiAus and like us on Facebook. I'm Kieran Groom, and we'll catch you next week.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. When the podcast comes out, that'll be the opportunity for me to run a week in science from the Royal Institution of Australia, which I do every week, and a little ad break. But now we'll continue with the Skeptic Zone Live with a pre-recording sent in by our colleague, Dr. Rachie, and this is Dr. Rachie Report, so you should be able to hear it over the system.
Now it's time for Dr. Rachie Reports with Dr. Rachael Dunlop.
Well, hello listeners. This is Dr. Rachie Reports coming to you from Jackson Hole in Wyoming in the US of A, and long time no speaky. Hello to everyone at Skeptics in the Pub in Sydney. And I have been on a very long break from the Skeptic Zone, and there are reasons for that. One of them includes the fact that I'm now in Jackson, Wyoming, and working on a project over here, which is an extension of what I was doing in Australia. But I've been pretty busy with science lately. And also I've been getting involved in a lot of science communication. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about science communication because I think it's an extremely important part of science. And I'm going to tell you why that is. There's been plenty of talk lately about science communication, and in particular who should do it and should they be rewarded for their efforts. Now, this discussion started when two opposing viewpoints were posed regarding metrics, or measuring science communication, if you like. And one commentator suggested that science communication should be considered in official measurements for academics. So not just papers that they publish, but also things that they may publish of a science communication nature. And another commentator who strongly disagreed with this, who thought the status quo should remain, their performance should only be measured by peer review and the amount of papers they publish. So this is a perpetual argument for scientists who do science communication, and it generally gets distilled down to the idea that if you force scientists to do science communication, it distracts them from their research, and this also risks attracting substandard researchers to the field. Now, I disagree with this assessment, as you can probably imagine, and I'll go into this a little bit later. But nevertheless, this is an important discussion because in the world of academic science, careers are won and lost on publish or perish. So grants and promotions are awarded based on how well you perform in this area. And this essentially constitutes how many papers you've published, how important the journals you publish in are, and where in the author list your name falls. So if you're the first author or the last author, you get more marks for that. And this was once the only way to gain traction up the academic ladder, in other words, to get promotions, etc. But times, they are a-changin', as they say, and this includes coming out from behind the paywall of scientific publishing to talk about your work to the public. So one of the reasons why I think we should be doing science communication as scientists is because, not unlike other vocations such as medicine or law or others, science operates in another language, and one that is foreign to a reasonable person. So the publications in science are complex, convoluted, and verging on impenetrable in some cases, not only because they are frequently behind a paywall, but they're written in jargon and use obscure acronyms. So evidence suggests now that even other researchers don't read their peers' work. And even when they cite their papers, that is, they reference them within a publication, it has been shown they've not necessarily read the entire paper. They may have read the abstract, which is the summary, but not the rest of the paper. And this is really critical because abstracts often misrepresent the findings in the body of the paper. So here we have a situation where, A, no one, sometimes not even other scientists, understand what their peers are jabbering on about, and B, Even if you want to try to decipher a scientific publication, as a member of the public, you have to pay a large publishing company to read it, and C, even other scientists can't be bothered reading their colleagues' work. So all up, not a great situation. So in my opinion, there are several problems with this. If scientists are receiving public funds to do research, then we should be required to tell people what we have done with their cash. Beavering away in a basement lab and pleading mad scientist is not acceptable anymore and only serves to perpetuate myths about scientists. 2, and this is particularly important, I think, we cannot expect support from the public if we don't engage with them. So consider this with respect to funding. As far as the government is concerned, particularly in Australia, scientists as a group are low-hanging fruit. We are not strongly union represented, we are not vocal, and the public does not universally love us. You don't see people marching on the streets in our defence when the government cuts millions from the CSIRO budget. And consider that the current government did not even appoint a science minister when they came into power. Eventually, after pressure from the scientific community and a cabinet reshuffle, over 12 months later they appointed somebody. Indeed, when we do complain as scientists about job losses and budget cuts, we're referred to by government ministers as precious petals. But there have been times when public support for science has been very high and the results have been very positive. So a number of years ago, there was a campaign started by scientists from the WeHi Institute in Melbourne called Discoveries Needs Dollars. And this was a grassroots campaign designed to protest slated cuts to the science budget leading up to the 2011 budget. Now, thousands of scientists in this case from across the country did take to the streets in their lab coats with placards and signs and protested in an effort to convince the government and the public that research funding is really important and it shouldn't be cut. Now, what made this campaign so compelling and successful was the stream of people from the general public who stepped up to talk about how they'd been helped by science-based medicine. It was personal, it was compelling, and people could relate to it. It resonated with the public, who saw no sense in cutting medical research funding when the return on investment is so high. The budget cuts were eventually reversed. So this is a great case study for the power of science communication, but this was in 2011, and what has happened since? Well, not much. As is their right and their responsibility, most scientists returned to their benches and forgot all about it. But they shouldn't, and here's why. If we, as scientists, don't talk about science, don't participate in discussions in the media, don't write blogs and articles, don't translate these complex concepts into the simple, then guess what? Other people will. This includes people who don't necessarily understand science, or those whose intention is to deliberately distort it for their own gain. Consider people like Pete Evans, Belle Gibson, Jessica Ainscough, Mike Adams, Dr. McCullough, Dr. Oz, the list goes on. And compared to the number of people doing a poor job of representing science, there are only a handful sticking up for it. So this is our fault and our responsibility. And as academic scientists, we should be rewarded for the science communication that we do. Now, I don't have the answer for how to best design a system to measure science communication output, but I absolutely think that it should be. And I'm glad this discussion is now taking place amongst scientists. Because if we don't stick up for science, then who will? You can find the blog version of this report on the official website of the Skeptic Zone podcast, skepticsbook.com. And this has been Dr. Rachie, and I promise I'll try not to have such a big gap between reports in future. But as I said, I have been pretty busy in Jackson, Wyoming. And until next time, this has been Dr. Rachie Reports.
Oh, that was great. Thank you to Dr. Rachie all the way over there in Wyoming doing her research. Took it out some time to... Was it an echo?
What part of America is Wyoming?
The geography. Fill me in on my poor American geography.
Rocky
Where is
Mountains.
Birmingham?
Rocky Mountains.
How far up?
Northwest.
Is it near Colorado?
Montana.
Oh, okay. Northern Colorado.
Just south of Montana.
All right. Quite cold.
Quite cold. Well, not now. It's summer there. Ah. Who's heard of Google Maps? All right, now, folks, if on your table you'll find some information that's for you to... Oh, is that Maynard again? No, he's still embedded in the audience?
Couldn't get much more embedded. Ah,
That was Maynard.
someone dinged me.
Oh, again. You'll have some information on your desk there, on your table. We have some copies of the Skeptic magazine at the front here. If you're not a subscriber and you'd like to have a copy to peruse, by all means come up. We have some spare copies for you. It's one of the oldest skeptical journals in Australia from Australian skeptics. Now, our next reporter. Our next reporter was originally going to appear with us via Skype on the video screen, but out of the blue she decided to fly down to be with us here in person tonight. You have on your tables a little flyer here from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters, a group that I support and I admire very much. All the way from the North Coast, it's Heidi Robertson.
It's the Raw Skeptic Report with Heidi Robertson.
Thank you. Hello. I struggled with what I was going to talk about tonight, but since I've come down from the Northern Rivers, I thought, well, and I'm not sure how many people here have visited in and around Byron Bay and surrounds. Yeah, so that's kind of where I live, in the Byron Bay hinterland up there. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about what it's like to live up there when you are skeptically inclined. I've spoken a little bit about this before on the Skeptic Zone. You may or may not know that I'm one of the administrators of the Facebook page and group, the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters, and Richard's been kind enough to let me talk about our group quite a lot on the podcast. So when I first realised that I'd moved to one of Australia's lowest areas of vaccination, and if you don't already know, Mullumbimby has Australia's lowest rate at just under 50% of 5-year-olds that are fully vaccinated, which is the equivalent of South Sudan. Anyway, when I first realised that, because I didn't know when I moved there, it was only when I got pregnant and started to realise that where I'd moved, and I was worried. I was worried for me and my babies. I was angry, but most of all I think I was confused as to why people didn't accept the science behind vaccination. But I was scared of speaking out about it because I didn't want to be ostracised in this community that we had just moved to and that we'd chosen to raise our children in. So that realisation of where I'd moved to led me to start looking at everything else in a more evidence-based way, I suppose. I started noticing just how much woo was actually surrounding me and how the denial of science in general was so prolific in the area. Except for one glaring exception, the science of climate change. Northern Rivers residents appear to accept that, and the science and technology that allows them their cars, their computers and their smartphones. I guess one might say there's a certain amount of cherry picking of the science. I have a paramedic friend up in the region that has gone to families and had to take their babies to hospital with whooping cough. It's a standard question when paramedics treat children to ask if the child is up to date with their vaccinations. A couple of times these families that she's attended have, whilst smoking a joint, proudly proclaimed that they are conscientious objectors, apparently oblivious to the irony. Vaccination's always been a no-brainer for me. I've travelled extensively and been loaded up with just about every conceivable vaccine available. And I'm grateful to Big Pharma for the protection they've given me in countries like Southeast Asia, South America, Central America, but also in my hometown of Mullumbimby. And yep, we need protection perhaps more than some of those developing countries that I mentioned earlier. Being so close to Byron Bay, where about 1.7 million tourists, many of them backpackers, visit every year, it's only going to take one person who's picked up measles, say, from Bali, and then come holidaying in Byron Bay to start an epidemic. Next time you're in the Northern Rivers region, and you've had your booster shots, take a walk down the main streets of Mullumbimby or Nimbin. For a skeptic, it's a veritable smorgasbord of woo. It's like permanently living in a mind-body-wallet festival. You'll see notice boards with advertisements for things like craniosacral healing, chakra balancing, many clairvoyants and psychic mediums, Reiki practitioners, spiritual doulas, and so on. Stalls at local markets selling healing crystals and DVDs showing you how to protect yourself from the harmful substances contained in chemtrails, which you and I may also know as contrails. Posters which read, "Look up, treason in the sky," are placed high up on power poles and trees on major roads. I'm sure the people that place them there have overlooked the fact that they are potentially killing the trees whilst promoting their concern for the environment. They nail them into the trees. But it's not uncommon to also see people driving clapped out Datsuns and the like with black smoke billowing from the exhaust and bumper stickers lamenting the destruction of rainforests. If you don't believe me about the chemtrail signs...
I'm all excited.
I'm not sure how this is going to go on the podcast, Richard. I couldn't resist
Those
the
of you who've got cameras.
Finally.
Treason in the sky.
I somehow procured this one yesterday for Jo.
Oh, thank you. I've been wanting one of these for my office for years.
I know. I've been promising you one. I procured this one the day before for Richard. And I thought the president of Australian Skeptics must also have one of these. So this is for Eran. Oh, he's gone. There he is. This is for you, Eran.
Perhaps read it for the podcast.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Yes. So, for podcast listeners, these posters say, "Look up, treason in the sky, geoengineering, climate change, chemtrails, dumping poison from planes. Contact your local member."
The local member's on the back. They've reused a core flute from...
Exactly. Poor old Janelle Saffin.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, where was I? So what else about living in the Northern Rivers? You can be at a school event or a kid's birthday party and be having a lovely, perfectly normal conversation with people, when one will say, "Well, I have to go to my Reiki / magnetic healing / bioresonance healing session now," or "I have an appointment to get my horse a chiropractic adjustment." No, really.
Hey.
Or, "I've just had my property balanced. We've been told where the best energy is to build our new house." Just last week I was at a neighbour's house who is a keen amateur astronomer and retired scientist. He has an observatory set up in his backyard with computer-operated telescopes. It's amazing stuff. You can imagine how excited I was. I got to see the rings of Saturn and Titan from a backyard in the Northern Rivers. But there he was, dealing with one of the guests who was a moon landing denier. It's normal in the Northern Rivers to use homeopathy for everything, including as a replacement for vaccination. It's what's known as homeoprophylaxis, and by many it's seen as a legitimate form of protection from infectious diseases. Some skeptics have asked me how I can live in such an area, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that every day would be a special kind of hell for someone who values evidence above opinion and belief. Although alternative therapies are part of what the area is renowned for, and it's synonymous in many ways with hippies and smoking pot, there are also the benefits of the natural beauty, the beaches, the fresh local produce, and yes, diversity of different lifestyles. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, people should live however the heck they want to live, as long as it's not hurting others around them. In fact, myself and another member of our group, the Vaccination Supporters Group, are appearing right about now, my phone's been pinging like mad in the past 15 minutes, on Channel 9 on a show called Inside Story about just this. You'll see, if you take a look online later, you'll see what I mean. And for people listening to the podcast, it's airing on the 6th of August. And yes, we are bracing for the online and in-person onslaught by some members of our community, as always happens when we speak out in the media about vaccination. I've had to pick my battles. In my case, our group's focus and priority is on raising vaccination rates in our area. We use the metaphor sometimes of our group being a bucket under a dripping tap, the leaky tap being the constant drip, drip, drip of misinformation. We can only catch the drips, so to speak, but we need government legislators and the various other acronyms to step in and fix the tap, to come down hard on the spread of vaccine misinformation by the professional anti-vaxxers and the proponents of supercalifragilistic homeoprophylaxis.
Thank you, Heidi! Oh my goodness, what a wonderful part of the world that is. Oh, the far north coast. So let's get the clicking going. Don't stop the clicking. He's the miracle, magical medicine man, Dr. Stefan Sojka. He'll treat you if he has to, fleece you when he can. Dr. Stefan Sojka. He's only got half a dozen felony charges. Dr. Stefan Sojka. His consultancy fees are the industry's largest. Dr. Stefan Sojka. So if you're feeling bad, don't be sad. Just book a $400 50 minutes appointment with Dr. Stefan Sojka. Beautiful, beautiful. Hi, I'm Dr. Stefan Sojka from the Crown Hotel Holistic Healing, Chakra Balancing, Homeopathic, Detox, Liquor and Gaming Institute. How can I help you?
Hello. I'm Richard Saunders from the Skeptic Zone podcast. I was wondering, could you take a look at my neck? I seem to have a freckle that seems to be, changing shape recently. I think it could be melanoma.
Melanoma. Now, Richard, you are talking to a highly decorated alternative medical practitioner here. I have 152 very nicely designed certificates to my name, acquired from some of the best virtual healing institute homepages on Google+. I can't have my patients going all technical on me and thinking they can understand the way the human embodiment of our eternal astral dimension souls function. Let me run a few Bach flower fragrance charts to divine your condition and predetermine the best wellness program for you.
Shall I take my shirt off?
Don't be ridiculous. There's nothing I can't diagnose by simply tuning into your quantum vibrations and registering any subatomic disturbances through my magnetic Reiki gloves. Now, show me your third eye. No, not that one. That's better. That's one of the worst cases of ectoplasmic conjunctivitis I've seen this week. Have you been taking any homeopathic remedies for this?
No.
Good. You don't want to hammer it too hard too soon. I'd be going for something infinitesimally less potent than homeopathy. Here, drink this organic craft beer with a designer label from behind the bar and come back to see me in 3 months' time.
3 months later?
Oh, hello, Richard. Great to see you. How's that ectoplasmic conjunctivitis going?
I have no idea, but I'm really starting to get concerned about this freckle. I scratched it the other day and it started to bleed.
Oh, that's terrible. You really shouldn't scratch yourself. Don't you know that itching is your body's way of telling you that you haven't done enough Kundalini uncoiling yoga exercises? Now, how's your liver?
My liver? What's that got to do with anything?
Richard, 99.999% of the entire world's population suffers from liver toxicity. I know, hard to believe, right? But let me tell you, my BMW dealer is very happy with those kind of statistics. You clearly have a sluggish liver. Look at you, sitting there all toxic and lethargic. Your irises are all over the shop. I don't know how you even managed to get here without a spirit guide and a GPS-encoded healing crystal. I'm going to put you on an immediate emergency course of 1, 2, 3 gut flush. 1, drink this. 2, swallow that. Now 3, wait for 3 days and you'll be thoroughly cleansed from the inside out.
Okay, Dr. Stefan, are you sure about this? I'm really worried about my freckle.
Freckle schmeckle. See you in 3 months.
3 months later?
Oh, Richard, great to see you again. Hey, thanks for paying all my invoices. How can I help you? Another liver detox? Can I interest you in an ear candling, perhaps? Perhaps a draining of your pineal gland? How about a foot massage?
Yes, but doctor, it's my freckle. It's really out of control. It's bleeding continuously. It's grown to the size of a prune, and I'm starting to feel great lumps in my armpits.
Richard, have you been vaccinated?
Yes, of course.
I thought so. Typical. You're clearly autistic. Now sit still. I'm going to try to stem the bleeding. It looks like you've punctured your aura. Now, with a combination of Reiki and Punjabi shaman chanting, I'll see what I can do. Om Vastana Vishana Pritanya Ingulvul Prashka Chakra. Ah! How's that? Did you feel anything?
No.
Good. Now, take these 2 prayer rugs and come back to see me in 3 months' time.
3 months later?
Richard! Oh, great to see you. How are you getting along there?
I feel terrible. I think it might be melanoma. I think it's metastasized in my bones, lungs, spleen, pancreas and liver. I don't think I've got long to live, unfortunately, but thanks for asking.
Excellent. Look, when the spirits call you back, they call you back. That's all I can say. I can't say I didn't throw everything I had at you. You've not been the easiest of patients either. If I may be so rude, I believe I detected a hint of scepticism in you ever since you started coming to my Wellness Institute. Okay, I'm going to try one last treatment. Here, hold this.
What is it?
It's a LifeWire healing wand. But not just any LifeWire. This one has been infused with 3 times as many Higgs boson particles than any other LifeWire in my collection. I had them added at the Small Hadron Collider downstairs in the beer cellar. Now, I will also attempt some micro Reiki using my carbon nanotube and graphene magnetic Reiki gloves. I'm going to attempt to re-encode your DNA molecules and then unfold and refold your offending proteins, much like a fitted bedsheet, only a lot smaller. And done. I don't think you'll be needing to see me ever again.
3 months later?
Wonder how that patient of mine went. What's his name? He didn't even call to thank me after all I did for him. I guess he must have crossed over. I think I'll try and contact him. What's his name again? Getting an R. Getting an R. Robert. Redman. Richard. Richard, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you have any messages for your friends and family back here on Earth?
Hello, friends and family. I'm right here, Dr. Stefan. I'm alive.
Oh, great Archangel Gabriel, it's a miracle, he's alive!
Actually, no, I gave up and went to see a skin specialist. He put me on a course of chemotherapy and BRAF inhibitors, and I'm totally in remission.
Hallelujah! Oh, yes, another success story for me. Thank you, Richard. I'm sure you won't mind if I use you as a testimonial, as I'm presenting your case at an alternative healing conference in Las Vegas next week. It's called Sham 15.
Yes, I do mind.
Great, thank you. Much appreciated. Oh, it feels so good to be so good. I think it's time for another song. Some say my title, Doctor, is a little misnomer.
Dr. Stefan Sojka.
I've got anecdotal evidence that I cured melanoma.
Dr. Stefan Sojka.
More psychological than Sigmund Freud. More psychedelic than Pink Floyd. Shut up and let me take your money. I'm
Dr. Stefan Sojka.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Stefan Sojka. Come back, Dr. Stefan Sojka. Well, folks, that just about wraps up the live Skeptic Zone, but we do have some time, Maynard, embedded in the audience there. How's the audience going?
Well, was there the guy with the footy jumper at the back who's now obviously looking up some porn on the computer there? Did you have a question that you wanted to... Hang on a minute. He's been investigated. This... Ashley Madison, yes.
Yeah, sorry, I'm putting in a border leave request for my daughter for the weekend. Sorry, because she just told me I was late.
So what?
But the question to Jo, and I tweeted it to her, she didn't say orgasmatron.
Can we repeat the question?
I need an orgasmatron from Jo Alabaster.
Orgasmatron!
Orgasmatron.
Thank you.
And that's the calibre of the questions we get tonight, folks.
I think we're going to have to...
Anybody else with a question for the crew?
Behind you there.
Oh, God, there's someone even further up the back. I didn't think that was possible.
So
it's Kenny Everett.
No, I'm not. So having seen the skit, I have a question. Are all the Mind Body Wallet festival interviews like that too?
Are all the Mind Body Wallet festivals like this?
Are they all sketches as well, or are they
all all Mind Body Wallet? They seem like all sketches. Some of the stuff that Stefan Sojka was doing is mild compared to some of the things we see at Mind Body Wallet. I can promise you that.
Actually, Stefan, we'd like to know how much of that was you making up those words, salads, and how much was it stuff you got off natural therapy?
No, I'm a fully qualified practitioner on Google+.
I'm skeptical. I don't think you mentioned Orgone energy once in your treatment.
You didn't mention Orgone energy once, you.
No.
That's because the FDA have bought you out, clearly.
You're a big shill. A big shill for Big Pharma.
Yeah, no, I can't talk about that. There's a court case pending, so I'm sorry about that.
Now, Maynard, we've come to the end of the show. Do we have a winner, maybe, for the Cosmos DVD?
Oh, clearly it's this guy here.
All right.
Who was not looking up porn, but in fact making time for his daughter live here while we were recording the Skeptic Zone. So what great family viewing for him, his daughter, and anyone else in the family who has the day off. There you are, sir. Enjoy it. Now say thank you.
Thank you, Maynard. And thank you, Skeptic Zone.
Yay! So, Eran and Maynard, come up the front. Heidi and Jo.
Hey!
So,
Hey!
thank you everybody for coming along to the Skeptic Zone Live. It's the first live one we've done in about 5 years. Hope we can do some more soon.
Stay still.
Hey!
And for those of you at home, we're mugging for photographs at the moment.
That's fine.
And, well, I didn't run downstairs to get anything this week.
Ooh.
I'll have to, now the show's over, I can run outside and get a pub meal.
He's going to run downstairs and spend his entire living in the VIP poker room.
Eating cheese and crackers.
But for this week, this is Richard Saunders and the Skeptic Zone team signing off. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter @SkepticZone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation.